This, boys and girls, is how you sneak. This is where the gaslighting gets really good.
My nickname around these parts is Dead Weight.
I hadn't been considering scissor.
I'm prepared to travel in time.
We were deep into an Adam Sandler rabbit hole on this podcast. How did that happen? A lifetime of Hallmark.
Well, hello, everybody. It is your favorite day of the week. It is time for another episode of A Lifetime of Hallmark, where we talk about movies on both Lifetime and the Hallmark Channel, and we try to make sense of them. I am Les Kirkendall Barrett. Hello, Jason Bowers.
Hello, Les Kirkendall Barrett.
And hello, Kurt Fitzpatrick.
Hello, Les Kirkendall Barrett, and hello, Jason Bowers.
And I guess with our with the movie that we're saying, the movie that we're talking about, I guess I better give an obligatory "How you doing?" because we are talking about Wendy Williams today.
Yeah,
is that what she said?
Yeah, that's her catchphrase.
That's her catchphrase. And then you have to do your hands like this, and you have to go, "How you doing?"
And by this, since it's an audio podcast, it's almost like you're making two claws with your hands.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was her catchphrase, so I found it a little disconcerting when she said it at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, no. She says that every day.
Okay. We're kind of like the Wendy Williams Show of our own. We talk about Blac Chyna. We talk about people in the news.
Well, Wendy Williams is friends with Blac Chyna.
Yeah. But I think
Angela.
I think Kirsch is saying that, like, you know, we're kind of covering the same kind of ground here. We should be competing with Wendy for guests.
Wendy Williams.
Well, as you can imagine, it is one of my life missions to be a guest on the Wendy Williams Show and sit on the purple couch.
Oh, I can see that happening.
Because I tell you, once we get into this, I tell you what, you know how I am big on snooping and how I talk about snooping? It takes a lot to impress me with snooping. Wendy Williams snooping impressed me.
Oh, yeah.
That was some good snooping.
I agree.
Yeah. There's montages in this movie, too. There was a montage in a montage.
Yes.
There was a montage that I enjoy in movies. The somebody is fucked up on a substance montage, because it's always usually like they're in a nightclub and the lights are kind of like strobing and like it's zooming in and out of their face as if their head is pounding.
Well, the funny thing is like that nightclub scene. I was like, oh, I've been to that nightclub.
Yeah. Oh, the actual club?
No, but I mean the scene and just the way that it was like. I'm like, oh, I've been to that club.
That's why I enjoy those moments in movies. I'm like, oh, I can relate.
They got a couple of montages of the magazines and newspaper headlines, and a little boy in the street corner saying, "Extra, extra, read all about it." Wendy Williams. Yes.
That is an old-timey montage we don't really get in movies anymore, is the headlines on newspapers, and then like you see the newspaper like spinning on the screen, and then you see the headline in like the most gigantic double 72-point font you've ever seen. And then you see see a newsstand with like somebody buying up all the copies. That doesn't really happen anymore.
Oh, yeah. How did they film that back in the day? Would they put a camera on a wheel in a car and spin it around?
They probably filmed it on like a Lazy Susan or something.
And that was probably like effects, like huge effects back then.
Oh, yeah. Like that was like Marvel level special effects. People don't talk enough about the innovative spinning newspaper effect of the 1920s that propelled the film industry forward.
I think it was a practical effect. I mean, I think they attached a camera onto a car. You said Lazy Susan. That's a possibility too.
Now, as you guys know, and I've admitted it, and I'll admit it to the listeners too. So, as you all know, I love Wendy Williams. I watch her show every day. Some of the stuff that like when she was talking about some of the stuff that was happening, I remember when it happened because I happened to be watching some of those days. So I got so caught up in the movie that I didn't take notes because I was so caught up in watching it.
Build up to an excuse.
So I watched it. Oh, and I watched it 2.5 times.
Why a half? I know you rewatched to take notes. What's the other half for?
I started it because I thought it was on at 6, but it was actually on at 5 on my TV. So I started a little late.
Oh, got it.
So the day of, I watched it and then went back and watched it up until I started.
Wow, you knew how it ended before it started.
Well, I know how it ends anyway because I watch her every day.
Yeah.
So, and once we get to certain parts, so she was, so today, I guess there was a big snowstorm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So today was the first day she was back. And there's certain things that when we get to, I'll tell you, she filled in the blanks. And it was actually certain things was even more than they showed in the movie. And she kind of talked about those parts. Yeah. So I'll mention those.
Okay.
We get there. But before we start, is there any Blac Chyna news?
Doing a piece of China.
China.
I'm talking China.
The Blac Chyna Report. Here's Kurt Fitzpatrick.
This is from the dailymail.co.uk. This is from yesterday. Blac Chyna and her alleged quote-unquote bisexual beau, Lil Twin, hand out 200 bags of essentials to homeless on Skid Row. Fashion Nova influencer Blac Chyna and her alleged quote-unquote bisexual beau, Little Twin, 200 bags of essentials to homeless people in Skid Row in downtown LA on Saturday. The DC-born 32-year-old, born Angela White, and the 23-year-old Heartless Love rapper both made sure to protect themselves and others from the coronavirus by wearing face masks. Let's see, how's this word pronounced? Indigent. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. Indigent folks are far more susceptible to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has infected 1.1 million Los Angelinos and killed 16,770 as of Monday, according to Johns Hopkins University. Rapper Queasy G claimed he was dating. Boy, what a transition.
Queasy G.
I'm still stuck on, like, normally these Blac Chyna stories, it delves into a really long explanation of what she was wearing, and this one's given COVID numbers.
Oh, no. This gets to everything. Okay, rapper Queasy D claimed it's science facts, it's outfit facts. So rapper Queasy D claimed he was dating a Little Twin, a.k.a. Hector Macho, in December before Blac, and he shared several eyebrow-raising Insta stories captured by Gossip of the City. While in Skid Row, Chyna stripped off her camouflage coat to strike a pose in a gray Fashion Nova tracksuit and white Chanel sneakers. But wait, let's get back to those COVID statistics. No, it doesn't say that.
This story veers wildly all over the place.
Right. Today's a blessing to give back, the Tutu video vixen said. I'd just like to thank everybody that came out and volunteered and donated. This is actually my second time out here after June 7th with Blessed Bag, and it's truly, truly an honor, which I think we covered that back in June. The nonprofit CEO, Bella Baskin Bronson, she's pretty hot too. I saw a picture of her, oversaw the charitable endeavor, which provided over 20 items like water, food, three-ply masks, Mylar blanket, and more in each bag to the needy. Okay, the next paragraph says, on December 8th, Blac and ex-fiancé Rob Kardashian finalized their custody agreement, co-parenting. What does this have to do with feeding the homeless?
This feels like a Blac Chyna blog. Like, they keep giving all these different parts of Blac.
Co-parenting four-year-old daughter Dream Renee, according to Us Weekly. However, China is still battling the reclusive 33-year-old's famous family in court over the cancellation of their e-reality spinoff Blac Chyna in 2016. Whoever wrote this article, I guess they get paid by the word. It's hard to believe that Kardashian, the ex-stripper formerly known as Cream, we didn't know that.
Cream?
11 months.
I didn't know that either.
Considering the legal battles that ensued. Just 2 more paragraphs. Blac also has an 8-year-old son, King Cairo Stevenson. from her 3-year-old romance with ex-fiance Tyga, which ended in 2014. Chyna currently makes her living creating $300 custom videos for fans on Cameo. I don't know if that's true. We looked that up before. I don't know if that's true. As
Well,
well
that was
as
OnlyFans, wasn't
I
it?
don't think it's not Cameo. As well as her $19.99 a month subscription to site OnlyFans.
I'm going to look up Blac Chyna on Cameo right now.
Cameo. I think we looked that up before, and she's not on because she can't do because she's all her fans. She's migrated them all to OnlyFans.
I'm just doing this right now. How much just to see what pops up if I Google this? Blac Chyna charge
That was a
on
very busy article.
Cameo.
Didn't we look this up once? Because we're talking about just paying it to get her to do a promo. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, wait. So this is dated April 13th of 2020.
Okay.
So this one from April 13th says Blac Chyna is now selling fans a FaceTime call for $950 and a follow back on social media for $250. But that's April 13th. But it says here Blac Chyna Cameo. So I'm going to go to I'm actually on the Cameo website. Oh my God, it's right. I'm looking at Blac Chyna Cameo right now. So it says Blac Chyna. Here's a picture. Here's a picture of Blac Chyna.
Yeah. Is it verified? Does it have a blue check?
It has a star.
Okay.
And it says Blac Chyna TV personality. Her ratings, she's got a 4.8 out of 5.
Oh, that's
very good. The reviews. She says
There's a review system at Cameo.
she then says, "Don't be shy. I give the best shout outs."
Oh, good.
And it says request $300. And she has a payment plan. She has a payment plan.
We can
So
get
you
Blac Chyna on layaway?
Yeah. So it's $300, but you can make 4 interest-free payments of $75.
I'll see if I get a mortgage approved for that.
Then,
so $300 mortgage.
if you want to chat with her, you can add an extra $19.99.
Ooh. Well, that sounds like a good deal to me.
She has 42 reviews. So like a lot of 5-star.
I would pay the what was it, $250 for a social media follow back? Like if Blac Chyna started following our Instagram.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I would chip in.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a business expense. We can write that off.
Yeah, I guess
I'm looking at some of Blac Chyna's reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Most of them are 5 stars, but I'm not going to talk about those. I say, so she got a 1 star in September of 2019.
Oh, what happened?
Way too fast. Doesn't give everyone a shout out. Clearly not trying. More 5 stars. She's mostly getting 5 stars though.
Okay.
4 stars, 5 stars, 3 stars.
What happened there?
Okay, this was reviewed by G on February. Oh my God, this is today. February 3rd of 2021.
Okay, what? Oh, G, why are you mad?
This was the 3rd Cameo I've purchased, and it was much shorter than the other 2. So we were a little bummed out about that, but our recipient loved it. And that's a good friend to get you a $300 Cameo.
Yeah.
I wonder who else. What are the cameos they did? Like Gary Busey and.
I want to believe that this person only buys Blac Chyna cameos.
No, they said they got 2 others.
Well, I know, but I'm saying like they could have bought 2 others from Blac Chyna.
Oh, look at this. Blac Chyna is hardworking because today is February 3rd, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
What are you counting?
13, 14 of her reviews. This is how many cameos she's done today.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, she probably knocks them out in one sitting. You know what I mean? Like she probably doesn't do go on there every day. She probably does them like for the week.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
Today. She's like, that's how many she's done today.
I think I'd hit it off with Blac Chyna.
And today, and I guess today was a good day for her because they were all 5 stars except for one gave her 4 stars.
Oh,
She was on her game today.
I thought G gave her 3 stars.
That was from another day.
Oh, okay.
This is all I'm looking at February 3rd. She's other than the 1 4-star, everybody else gave her 5 stars. So she was well rested. She was on point today.
You know who else is deserving of 5 stars? We are for our podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on.
Yes, we are.
5
Please
stars,
give us 5
please.
stars.
By the way, we also have some William Cat news.
Oh, yes. Kurt, do you have the William Cat Report?
And now, the greatest American hero report. Here's Kurt Fitzpatrick.
Well, our very own Jason Bowers had posted something on Facebook about William Cat. I think that William Cat used to be desirable back in the day. This led me to looking up his net worth.
And me.
Yeah,
I hate you both.
We found out that, I don't know, he said it's only worth $500,000.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. Because, well, I don't know. He might only be worth $500,000, but the Connie Selleca one that Les looked up.
She was also on the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Greatest American Hero. That says
Yeah.
she was worth $500,000.
I feel like she's got to be worth a few million because John Tesh still does a nationally syndicated radio show and made an unbelievable amount of money doing his music. So I think that figure's wrong.
That's more than $500,000. He doesn't have a house. It's $500,000. Ooh, man.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Because I looked up some other net worths. I was up late doing this. So, so I wanted to know who is worth more, Amy Poehler or Kristen Wiig?
I bet Poehler.
Okay, well, they're both worth the same, according to, but how much do you think it is?
A couple, like a double-digit million.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily. Because Poehler has produced a bunch of shows. That's why I think she easily has more than Kristen does. Because these things are never correct.
And she owns UCB, right? Does she own UCB?
Yeah, but they're struggling. She owns part of it.
Some school. I don't know about what the answer, the correct answer to that is. But well, no, they gave a number. I don't know if the celebrity net worth is reliable.
It's not.
But what do you think the number is that they gave
for Amy? Just based on like she's produced several shows which have made it on the air. She's done a decent amount of acting. You figure in like assets like home and stuff. I bet she's around 40 or 50 mil.
They said 25.
Okay.
Oh.
They said 25 for the two of them. Now, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is worth a ton of money.
Well, she had money before she was on TV.
Well, she's a DuPont, right?
She's something.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it might be DuPont, but I know her family is basically billionaires. So
yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, man. Boy, Brad Hall. Boy, he hit the lottery.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like she's probably like Julie Lou, who I love, and is one of like my favorites. And so I guess she kind of goes into the I think I want to be an actress category.
I don't know.
But I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, yeah.
So do I.
Did I ever say this little story that years ago I read when she was on SNL? The last year she was on SNL, Philadelphia Inquirer wrote, they had a roundup of the TV season. They said, worst variety performer, female, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
For what?
And for SNL. And I always remember that because I thought she showed them.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because I think every series she's been in has been a hit. Every single one.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had the best one, the best variety performer. They said Pamela Stevenson, who was also on SNL that year.
Who's Pamela Stevenson?
I don't even know
Exactly.
who she is.
She's a tall blonde woman, if I recall, but I don't remember anything about her.
When she married Billy Connolly, she got out of show business and she became like a psychologist or something like that. Psychiatrist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
She used to be on Not the 9 O'Clock News. which was a popular British show. I think she's the only SNL cast member who was Australian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. I think I'm correct on that.
Okay.
That's right.
No way for anyone to check, what with the internet and all.
I'm not going to. That's right. People can let us know if I'm wrong.
Yes. Well, shall we embark on our trip to Wendy Williams land?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the Wendy, what was it called? Wendy Williams,
the movie.
Wendy Williams, the movie. And then afterwards, I watched the documentary, Wendy Williams, What a Mess.
Yeah, I couldn't get that. I put that on my DVR. They wouldn't let me watch it for some reason. I don't know what happened.
Well, she was a mess. So, we start with the opening of the Wendy Williams Show. And she's getting ready to go on stage, and she's preparing. She's backstage. She's getting ready to go on stage to say, "How you doing?" But right before she goes on stage, she stops and she turns and she starts talking to the camera.
Well, Les, you left out the movie starts with a montage.
There's
like a paparazzi montage about Wendy Williams scandals. That's how the movie starts. I'm surprised you didn't.
Tabloids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that's right up your alley, Les.
Yes. Well, there were so many montages in this one that I got overwhelmed. I did. There was like a ton of montage. This movie, in some parts of this movie, it kind of put me on sensory overload sometimes.
Really?
Because there was a lot going on. So she's talking to the audience, and I wrote here, the actress really does look like a younger version of her.
Yeah.
Yes,
She really did. And so we start off with little Wendy. And I'm surprised she's not like psychologically scarred, because she was an overweight kid. Her parents let her know that she was overweight. She said she was on her first diet at 5 years old. And her parents would like weigh her every day. And then, so she's getting ready to go to this party, and her mother is like, remember, don't talk too loud, don't talk too fast, don't tell too much. So I guess she was a mouthy kid. Mm-hmm. And so she's at this birthday party. She's taller than the other kids. And before she went to this party, she's trying to fit into this party dress, but she was having a hard time zipping it up, and like her mom's giving her shit about it. And so she goes to this birthday party, and they're playing musical chairs. It's her and the hostess, who was like a little bitch, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they play musical chairs. Wendy gets in the chair. It was all fair and square. So she sits in the chair, and then the little host of the party starts having a tantrum because Wendy didn't let her win.
Yeah, because it's her birthday. So why can't she win on her own birthday?
Right. Which is like, okay, little girl, that's just not how it works. That's not how life works. But so Wendy sat in the chair, but then, poor thing, the chair broke. And so she was literally humiliated in front of this whole party. And then the little girl's mom was like an absolute bitch too. Because like Wendy and her mom are leaving, and the girl's mom just like slams the door in their face.
Well, I have to hold on to my brand here and mention that it was quite a spread of sweets.
It was. Yeah, they had a sweets montage, Kurt.
Did they? It was a montage?
Yeah,
well,
the lead, like as they were getting ready for the to cut to the party scene, they had a whole montage of like panning over the table of sweets. Because it was right after it was like drilled into us that Wendy, had a problem with eating too much, or at least that's how her parents saw it. Then they cut to all this food that's bad for you.
Right.
I already broken that chair too.
Right. And she still like eats a lot. Like she's really big on, she loves eating. She talks about it all the time. She talks about how she eats Doritos and caviar.
I don't like that.
So then they show a scene that she's in the store with her mom and she goes over to the tabloid section. And I was like, oh, that reminds me of me when I was that age, because I too would go to the tabloid section and read all the tabloids.
What's happening with Will's cat these days?
And I remember, like, the highlight. My mom would get the National Enquirer in the mail every week because we lived overseas. So my mom would get the National Enquirer in the mail every week, and I would take it when she was done and read about Studio 54, because it was always, every week was about Studio 54 and who went. And Elizabeth Taylor was always, back when she was married to Senator Warner, they were always talking about Elizabeth Taylor and Liza Minnelli and Halston.
Who's Halston?
Who's Halston? Halston was a designer who was popular back then, who is no longer with us.
Okay, I never even heard of Halston before.
You've heard of Halston, right, Jason?
I've heard of Halston, but I couldn't tell you anything about design aesthetic or anything like that.
But I remember being a little kid and like being a little jealous that I couldn't go to Studio 54. And look at me today.
Yeah.
But then little Wendy had other issues. She was a bedwetter.
We kind of get through it without even a line of dialogue explaining it, but just by through a simple action in the movie, we get the impression that Wendy has a little money. Her family has a little bit of money.
Yes.
Oh,
and
yeah?
So Wendy fills it in. So both of Wendy's parents were teachers.
Okay.
All right.
And so, yes.
Yeah, I'm just referring to because after Wendy wets the bed, she's like hiding the sheets in the closet, and like a cleaning woman comes in and takes them from her.
And now what Wendy said that she left out is the fact that Wendy was like the only black kid in her neighborhood. And this is all through growing up. They always lived in white neighborhoods.
Yeah, I got that impression with the party.
Pressure too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she said that was an extra pressure too, along with everything else.
She also said that later on that street became known as Wendy Williams Way.
Yes.
Yeah. She
showed them.
So then she says that, so this is a good bit of advice, because then she says, like, she when she went to college, she started in radio, and she said it's always been her thing to always have a plan. Always have a backup plan.
There were certain things in this movie that I wondered if this is how Wendy had always approached her life growing up, or the way things actually happened for Wendy, or if they made a choice in the movie to show younger women that might be watching this how to empower themselves. For instance, when she was kind of feeling down on herself about being called fat, she pulls out this book of colleges and she's looking through a book of colleges, sort of aspiring to that. And like throughout the movie, pretty much all of her bosses throughout the movie were women. That's really unusual in radio to have that many female bosses back in the 80s and 90s.
And actually, she says on her show that, she said when she was a little kid, she always knew that going to college was like her way out. Because she said she always wanted to escape. And she knew that she had to get into college so she could escape her family.
Nice.
So it's unusual to have a lot of women bosses in radio?
Yeah, less so now, I'd say. Although even now, it's still more of a boys' club probably. But like, I'm not that much younger than Wendy, and I started in radio probably about 8 years after her. And I didn't have a female program director till many years into working in the business, and she seemed to have like female boss after female boss.
And when we get to that part, I have questions for you too.
Okay.
Because all of the program directors all looked like they were about to have nervous breakdowns.
That's pretty. That's pretty on point.
So she started doing radio in Washington, D.C. She developed a little cocaine habit.
Mm-hmm.
A little.
A lot. Then she talks about how one of her guests actually basically duped her into going back into his hotel, and he attacked her.
Did you notice which hotel it was?
No, what hotel was it?
She's basically interviewing this guy, Ricky Tony. And they're flirting hard during the interview, and he's like, "Hey, let's hang out." And so they go back to his hotel so he can change, and they show the exterior of the hotel. It was the Watergate.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if that would if they actually stay, if Wendy actually stayed there, or if that they just chose that because they knew it was a famous hotel in Washington and people would recognize it.
Right. But the thing is, so Wendy was attacked, and she just went to work. She went to work the next day. She got up and went to work the next day, and so she's and her boss said something shady to her, like, "Oh, I see you went home with him." But then she talks about what I like about Wendy Williams. She's very goal oriented too. Very focused, very goal-oriented. And so she said that it was her goal to get on a radio station in New York. And I guess that was the big thing is to get... Now, Jason, is it you want to get in a big market?
Yeah. You always want to go to a larger market because there's more money and more audience. New York, and the markets for radio, it's media market size. So New York is obviously the biggest market. LA would be number 2, Chicago's number 3. DC is a big one. It's a top 10, so is Philadelphia where she ends up. But New York is the prize.
So then after her getting attacked, that basically just kind of fueled her even more. And so she just starts, she says she decided not to be fearful anymore and just go for it. So then she says that she ended up getting a job, a part-time gig in New York. So she would work in DC during the week and then so she's basically working 7 days a week. She'd work in DC and then drive up to New York and work in New York.
Yeah, that's a very common thing in radio, especially when you're near a major market, but you're not in the market that you want to be in. You'll work full time in the smaller market, where I grew up in Allentown. A lot of people there would work weekends in Philadelphia or New York.
Wow, that's a lot of work. Yeah. Because she worked a lot.
Was she doing 2 shows a day?
No, she was doing DC during the week and then would either drive or take the train up to New York and then do a weekend show there.
Okay.
Now that the way they do it is what's called voice tracking, where you're in one city, but you can record your audio ahead of time and just do it, because it's all pre-recorded now for the most part. You just do your show from wherever.
Well, Ryan Seacrest. Yeah. Because Ryan Seacrest is in New York, but he does a show here. He's
mostly live on his show, but there is an overlap of the time that he's on the air with Kelly, so that stuff's all pre-taped. But I'm talking about when I was in Los Angeles, for instance, I did an afternoon show in San Diego, but I wasn't live. I would just pre-record it. And I did a night show in Pennsylvania, but I would pre-record it.
So it's a lot easier now than it was.
Yeah, but everyone's doing 10 jobs as opposed to 2 now.
Right. Oh, and then she says, which I found impressive, that she has never been unemployed for more than 2 weeks.
That's great.
So then she says, one of the reasons why she wanted to work in New York was because her idol named Carol Ford was there. And so she wanted to get a gig in this radio station. And so she literally went and waited in the lobby for 2 weeks and would just read tabloids all day until she kind of wore them down. And so she got a fill-in gig and she goes on this fill-in gig and starts just like talking trash. And so
Milli Vanilli.
Right. And hey, she turned out to be right. Because she was talking about how Milli Vanilli, how there was a rumor that Milli Vanilli weren't really singing. And I guess at the time, people didn't believe her. But the program director comes running in, and you think she's going to get in trouble.
Well, she did it first. It's such a stupid scene. It was such a stupid scene because he comes in her and he's like going after about Wendy, like, hey, we don't do that here. And then Wendy's just like, it's real. People want to know this. And then he's like, that's brilliant. He does an immediate 180 on his opinion on whether or not she should be talking about this stuff on air. And like light bulb goes on. He's like, I'm going to give you a contract.
Right.
He said,
and then he gets fired the next week.
Yeah.
It's revolutionary. It's revolutionary. He looks like somebody just knocked him on the back of his head with a rowing boat oar. I mean, he is. It's revolutionary. You're hired.
Yeah, because it looked like he got fired like the next week. Like, does that happen too, Jason? Like, program directors get fired?
Oh, yeah. The last like radio station I worked at, not radio job, a radio station I worked at, I was there for under 4 years and had 4 different program directors in that time.
Wow.
Yep.
So Wendy got a contract, continued to do coke.
Well, she can afford it now.
Right. And then, so one night she's at this nightclub and she's doing coke in the bathroom in a stall. And someone's like, hey, are you Wendy Williams? And starts giving her a bunch of gossip about this girl group that was owned by P. Diddy.
Yeah.
And so her gossiping started to kind of get her into trouble because she had to hire a bodyguard.
Skeletor?
But I guess the bodyguard would get her coke too.
Or no, Skeletor was her assistant.
Yeah, Skeletor was her assistant.
Skeletor.
And so then Wendy starts dating this DJ, and like he was an ass.
No, she's with Eric B.
Yeah.
From Eric Rakim.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Wait. So this is this was
these celebrities that she was name checking in the movie. This is all real. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that song Follow the Leader. I have one of their cassettes.
Oh. Because see, I wasn't sure if it was an amalgamation or if it was a real person. Wow. Okay, so it was a real person.
Yeah, that song Rock Kimase. Follow the Leader, Rock Kimase. Yeah. Well, I like there's a love scene. She's like, oh yeah, Eric B. Ah. Is that what people say? Oh yes, LL Cool J. Yeah, give it to me.
I wish LL Cool J.
Yeah, with LL, hell yeah.
But Eric B was not a good boyfriend.
Yeah.
He was so like he borrowed her car, and she was like, he borrowed her car and stayed out for the day and made her late for work, and so she decided to be a nice girlfriend and rent him a got, and he never returned the rental.
Is that what happened? I was a little confused. I missed something there. So he never returned the rental. Eric B. He got to return the rentals.
Because Skeletor was like, Wendy, the rental place is calling, and they're gonna like put out a warrant for your arrest if you don't return the car. So then Wendy finds out that she's pregnant. And so she does not want to be pregnant. And so she goes and she gets an abortion.
And it was right around this time in the movie, too, that we see our first of many bleeped out F words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for the theatrical version, they'll leave those in?
Maybe if they do like if this is on the Amazon Prime or something. I mean, like, I didn't even mind that they did it. I thought it was a very kind of bold choice because normally in storytelling for something for commercial television, they just will write around saying those words as opposed to leaving them in and bleeping them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, oh. So then Wendy's at a club she's at a nightclub. She went to a lot of nightclubs.
Yeah.
So Wendy's at this nightclub and she's like getting bottle service or whatever. And so this guy, Kevin, sees her from across the room and slips her his number. And she just kind of looks at the number and puts it in her purse. And so then she gets a job at Kiss FM. And then she's going through her purse and she finds his number in her purse. And so she calls him. I guess this was during the days of caller ID when you could star 69, because she called and hung up and then he called right back.
Yeah.
So I guess he star 69'd her. And then she asks him out and they start dating. And then she just, she starts telling him about her life and how she had a battle with bulimia for a little bit. And then she's like, listen, dude, I'm getting a boob job and I'm getting a lipo. And if you don't like it, that's too bad.
I like how the first date was just sitting in a car.
And she was grilling him. She was grilling him on all the things that I'm glad she was asking him. Like, basically, like, do you have a job? Is this car actually yours? Do you have any other girlfriends? Do you have any other women that think they're your girlfriend, even though they're not?
Right. Yeah,
As they were
setting him. Yeah.
As they were sitting in the car drinking out of red Solo cups. So I loved this sort of a montage. I loved her after her boob job montage.
Oh, yeah.
Because she gets her boob job at her liposuction, and then she does like a slow-mo walking in, and everyone's looking at her boobs as she's walking by them. And another thing I liked about this is that they had, like, this movie could have been a great soundtrack because it's like all these 90s songs.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
What song is playing when she walks in? It was some recognizable song.
Dun, 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 and I don't know any of the words. Dun, 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 dun.
I don't know what that is, so hopefully we don't have to pay royalties.
No, I don't.
I didn't say the words.
Yeah.
I don't know what song that was.
Yeah.
So then she's back on air and she's talking about her boob job.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gets in trouble. So program directors are that frazzled.
So it's yes and no. Like I'm sure they were condensing several different characters and reactions to this down into one character to sort of speed the story along. But I did think it was kind of absurd that they would get so upset and like walk in the studio and like immediately pull her off the air. They wouldn't go that far. You would get what's called a hotline. So every studio has a number that basically only like the program director and the other staff members have, and the listeners can't call. So if you're getting hotlined like after a break like that, that means the program director is upset.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So if that phone rings, you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
I'm in trouble.
Yeah, because that job's, there's a lot of pressure because you're feeling it from both sides. You're trying to take care of the creatives on your staff while at the same time trying to keep the sales team happy. It's a no-win position, really.
Have you ever gotten a call when you're working?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And so P. Diddy was mad at her. And so P. Diddy, that's right. So P. Diddy was mad at her. And so P. Diddy sent his girl group over to kick her ass.
Yes. The group Total.
Total.
Yeah.
And so, because I guess...
What's that, Kurt?
Because
Isn't that a cereal?
It is a cereal as well, but it was a girl group, yes.
Because the rumor was that, like, when she was in the bathroom, the girl in the bathroom told her that Total they were broke because Diddy wasn't paying them.
Oh, okay.
So Diddy, I guess maybe he promised them a bonus or something because he sent them over to kick her ass. But then, and I like how Skeletor like went out to like check first.
I know. Could you imagine you're getting into music? You're like, well, oh, you start a group, and like your job is to go out and hunt someone down. It's like, I didn't get into this for this. I was in my school musical in high school, and that didn't prepare me for kicking someone's ass.
I don't think Diddy sent them over, because I think the fact that they were broke was Diddy's fault. So I don't think Diddy's they're gonna listen to him. I think they were upset because they didn't want people smack talking them.
Right.
Oh, P. Diddy. I saw P. Diddy one time. I went to see Jamie Foxx. Somebody I know invited me to go see Jamie Foxx and Fantasia at Madison Square Garden. And we're in like the second row, and we look up, and there's P. Diddy and his posse are up in the balcony, and he left early to avoid the crowds.
Oh. So Wendy's about to get beat up, and then Kevin comes and saves the day and like yells at them. Yeah. And so Wendy is so in love with Kevin that she then decides that she's going to quit doing coke. And so she said she's quit on the spot, and she quit cold turkey. So then she starts doing gossip, and then there's like a few radio montages of her like, "Good morning, New York," and she's like gossiping and stuff.
Yeah.
But then major stars really didn't want to do her show anymore because she would give them a hard time, because she became like a shock jock, like Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And I remember back then, and she was known as like the female Howard Stern. That's how people would describe her, because I remember that. And so then her boss, and so then her Diddy then did get mad at her boss.
Right.
And so the boss was like, listen, Diddy just called me, and I have all these people like up my ass, and they're not going to send people to this show anymore. So I am not going to put you on the air anymore, but I'm going to continue to pay you. And so Wendy found a loophole, which the lesson from that was always read your contract, because she found a loophole. And the loophole was she had a non-compete in New York, so she just went to Philadelphia, which was a couple of hours away from New York, and then just started doing radio there.
Yeah.
She was on Power 99, which I used to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And
station.
So and I guess basically it was a lower rated station, so she could so getting her was a get.
Well,
yes and no. Yes and no. It's a get in the sense that she was doing well in New York, but the Philadelphia audience didn't know her, so she's not automatically going to do well there. And she just needed a job. So, and I think the station wasn't doing real great when she first got there. So
she moved to Philadelphia.
Power 99 is a major station.
Oh, it is now, but I'm thinking at the time, and this is 30 years ago.
30 years ago is when I listened to it. Yeah, Mike Jackson, he was on there. I don't know. Shout out to Mike Jackson for Power 99.
Yeah.
1986.
So then she discovers that she's pregnant, but she has a miscarriage. And then it turns out she ends up having like a bunch of pregnancies and a bunch of miscarriages.
And like ones that carried pretty far into the pregnancy. Like she had two that went 5 months in.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that must have been just like heartbreaking.
Yeah. I know it's hard to find the humor in this part, but I like the doctors, the actors who played the doctors. So one walked in with like a really serious look on his face. Like he was really practicing that look.
Mm-hmm. So then her and Kevin decided to get married. And then she got pregnant again. And so the doctor basically explained to her what was going on, which I guess she had a weak cervix. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, if you just go on bed rest, you'll be baby to term. And so what she did is then she said that so then she brought it up to her bosses. Her bosses weren't that nice about it, but they let her do the radio show from her bed.
Mm-hmm.
And
she said put on 103 pounds. Yeah.
But I guess if you're in bed for 9 months.
Yeah.
So she carried the baby to term. And so she had the baby. But then she caught her husband on the phone with another woman. Or as she put it on the show, she caught him talking on the talk show. She said, I caught him talking greasy to another woman.
Oh, wow. That guy Kevin had a real
and so,
drawl, too. He's always like, yeah, I'm not. He sounded like that.
So then, this, boys and girls, is how you sneak.
Okay.
And how you snoop.
All right, get your pens and pads out, kids.
I was impressed with her snooping. Because she suspected her husband was having an affair. She put on a hat and a disguise and followed him. And then she hired a private detective because when she confronted him about cheating, she had pictures that she threw at him.
Oh, wait, Les, have you ever put on a disguise to sneak around?
Good question, Kurt.
I have put on a hat, and yes, I've put on glasses to sneak around. I have.
What kind of hat and what kind of glasses? Like just a normal baseball cap, or was it like I'm gonna wear an Uncle Sam red, white, and blue top hat?
No, I put on a baseball cap, and I would like hide in my car. I did do that once.
So, what's funny about that, and both for you and for Wendy in this movie, is you're hiding in something that's much larger than you that will also be recognizable to the person that you're snooping on.
No, because I wasn't close up. I was far away.
But that's my point being, like, it's your car.
But I was far enough away that they weren't able to see my car. Like I wasn't obvious.
Okay.
Like I was back a ways. Like you'd have to be looking for my car to see that it was my car.
Okay.
So you just had the disguise just in case they would look over?
Well, at the time I had longer dreadlocks, and so I had to hide them.
But if you're far enough away where the car won't be seen, then why were you concerned about you being seen?
Because you have to take all precautions.
And I might come up with a podcast years later. You know?
You have to take precautions.
I'm still not sure that I'm on board with the logic here, but okay.
I don't know what it was about, but I think that might get into some sticky territory.
Oh, with an X. It was an X.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Okay, all right.
So then she got a job back in New York again. And then she wrote a book. And she let it all hang out in her book. Now, this is where I got engrossed in the movie and stopped taking notes.
Okay.
So what happened next?
Well, Wendy had, because she had found out that Kevin had a side piece, she goes to the doctor and she gets an IUD. She insists on it, so she doesn't have more kids with him.
For 10 years, right?
Yeah.
It was like a 10-year.
Yeah. And she gets hired at WBLS, which is in Long Island.
Right.
Which in radio would not really be considered New York City.
Okay.
Not bad. It's still it's a very well-known station, but that's not New York. And then she was supposed to start working on 9/11 at this new job. So
right.
she's kind of figuring out her life. She writes a book. There's going to be a big launch in Times Square, but Wendy's all depressed about it, and she's like moping in bed, and Kevin kind of comes in and cheers her up.
Right. And then he becomes her manager then, right?
Yeah. And her show's like taken off, and she's like dishing more about celebrities on air. That's really become her thing at this point.
She's talking to Whitney, and she asks Whitney if she's still on drugs. Then she talks to Mariah.
which those are both famous interviews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like famous. Like that was happened even before she wasn't even on here in California yet. Mm-hmm. And those were like newsworthy interviews that we all heard about here.
Yeah. It's basically those kind of interviews that they didn't really go into this in movie, but Wendy had a nationally syndicated radio show at one point.
Right.
Okay. She also said big things for someone named Kanye.
She did what?
She sees big things for Kanye.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Right.
Like I said.
So then so then Kevin keeps on cheating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like ends up being like the same girl, like it's the same woman.
Yeah.
And
he's a telemarketer. He's got bad excuses. So it's the same number keeps calling him. It's a telemarketer. Yeah.
Right.
She saw through that.
And she catches him every time.
Yeah.
And then she gets mad at him. She says, why are you always wearing sunglasses at night? Who are you, Corey Hart? There's a shout out to one of those crossover Canadian pop stars who really made it in the U.S. with that song. I wear my sunglasses at night.
So then
that was one of the first celebrities I ever met when I got into radio was Corey Hart.
Who, Corey Hart?
Yeah. Yeah. This is back in 1992, I want to say. It was like long after Sunglasses at Night was a hit. He was on like his third album trying to get another hit. Didn't really happen.
That's like 8 years later.
Yeah.
Right. So then she gets approached about a talk show. And because she had already done one talk show, the Wendy Williams Experience. And so then she gets approached about another talk show. And her husband turned it down, right? Or he was
not. The producing company, Debmar Mercury, was like calling, trying to get a meeting with her, and he wasn't calling him back. And his reasoning was like, we're not doing one of these like panel shows where you're like part of this other group. Like it's either all about you or it's not. Like from a managerial standpoint, he wasn't wrong.
Right. And so then the show starts to happen. They get like a 6-week trial period.
This is kind of just some like inside baseball. This is a thing that they've been doing with a lot of TV shows now, and it started with hers, where she got a 6-week test run in the summer to see if like she had what it takes to like be doing a daily show with the kind of grind that it has and be able to put out content every day. And it was very successful, so they got picked up for a full season, and now they do that all the time.
Because that's what I started watching, and she called it her 6-week sneak peek. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching going, oh my God, she's so cool. Oh my God, I love her. So she's working hard, and her husband is working hard at chasing tail. Yes. And so the show starts happening. There's a show montage.
Mm-hmm.
And then she always, basically, she knew he was cheating pretty much the whole time. Like it was kind of a surprise, but not really a surprise.
When she was surprised at how brazen it was and at what level it was.
Because he like bought another house
10 minutes away.
Yeah.
It was a nice house too.
And had it set up like the woman, like he was basically playing house with the other woman. And so this was one of my favorite parts. And this is the part she talked about today on the show. Because she said it was even more than they showed on the show. So she said, yes, she did find the other house. And she said she went to the art department and got a color of spray paint that was really gaudy that he would know it was her.
That's an amazing detail.
And then she said also, then she said she went to the fish market and bought like some whole fish. And so she spray painted it, but put fish in the garage too.
Yeah, we're referring to Wendy like finds the house and then just vandalizes the garage door.
Right.
And in spray paint writes Kevin plus Wendy forever.
Yeah.
She also super glued the mailbox.
Yes.
Oh, I missed that. That's amazing.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she super glued the mailbox.
They couldn't open the mailbox anymore.
And then she's like, and she was like, yes, he really did leave she said they were gone on vacation and he really did leave the garage unlocked.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she's kind of shaming. She's kind of catty about that. She just leaves the garage door open.
Well, that was a callback to an earlier beat in the movie where she asked him, when things started getting tense between them, she asked him if he closed the garage door because he was always leaving it open. So that was a callback.
Oh, so she's still pissed. He does it at the other house.
Yeah.
And then she went on to say, because it's kind of funny, it's kind of cool, like watching the show and having her film breaks. Then she said, like, there were a couple of people who she had fights with because he would go to Florida or he'd go to Miami with his other woman, and they would say, tell the press or tell some gossip rag that they saw him with another woman, and Wendy would like think that they were full of crap. And so she's like, I need to go back and apologize to these people because they were actually right the entire time. And they were calling it out, and it was true.
Yeah.
Right.
So then he gets even more brazen because he then gets the woman pregnant. And so she's like so Wendy, of course, is really upset and really depressed, as you would be if you found out that your husband got another woman pregnant and she was going to have the baby. And
well, also, we kind of skipped over the fact that she basically, after she discovered that he had this house with this woman, she didn't completely end things because their son was still home. She was basically kind of riding out the relationship until the son went to college.
Oh, that's right. And then she said, but she said she was planning the entire time.
Yeah.
And Kevin's mad at her. He's like, I understand you went to my investment property.
Yeah. And he was brazen too. He was very brazen about it.
Yeah.
Because his case kind of like, yeah, well, yeah, I have another woman, whatever.
Well, I think at that point he knows he's caught. Like, what, denying it isn't going to do him any good in that moment.
But you can apologize.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't even do that.
I apologize. I'm still having an affair.
Well, or at least kind of fake it. Like, he was kind of like, okay.
Oh, wow.
So, but then she started drinking for good, for good reason.
Yeah.
Because she was like hanging, she's like stuck in this marriage, waiting it out. And it was like for 2 years, because she said she waited out for 2 years. And then she even mentioned, 2 years is actually a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So she starts drinking, and then they show the infamous scene where she is dressed as the Statue of Liberty, and I was watching that day because it was a Halloween episode.
I remember this.
She's dressed as the Statue of Liberty, and she starts talking, and she gets glassy-eyed, and she faints on camera. And so he gets her. He wakes her up, and then she ends up waking up and finishing the show.
But he gaslights her into going to rehab after this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you need help. You're an alcoholic. You need to go to rehab. And if you don't, because he was like, if you don't go, you're going to end up losing the show. So, and then one of the things that I skipped is like, it showed like he started getting so brazen, like he would be late for company meetings and show meetings, but he would expect her to wait for him. But then she started kind of getting empowered and going, well, no, because the show's got to function. And he would show up, get pissed at her for basically doing her job.
Yeah.
And like making sure that the show functioned. So he gaslights her into going to rehab. And it was very nice rehab.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Like, her suite at this rehab is nicer than my apartment. It had a pretty nice apartment.
It was like a nice studio apartment. I think there was like a little kitchen off the side.
No, it was a full-size kitchen. There were like stools at the countertop, like multiple stools.
Right.
That's a good deal.
And so, but she's still kind of like plotting his demise while she's at this rehab. And, and then this is a part too, where she then says, like, in the show, she was like, during this part, she's like, she did it and just went to the rehab because she was like, nobody would believe her because he had like everybody else in her family, like her parents and everybody else kind of snowed too. So she just went to plot. So then the show actually starts to suffer because she's taking this time off. And so during this time, they had like just a bunch of guest hosts that didn't do well because I was watching it, and they would have these shitty guest hosts. Like one time it was, no offense to Jerry O'Donnell, and I like Jerry O'Donnell, but like
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah. Jerry O'Connell. Sorry. They had Jerry O'Connell replace her for a while.
Genuinely nice guy, by the way, Jerry.
Yeah. Yeah. I've met him once. Back when I was catering, I had a gig at their house. Him and Rebecca Romain's house. Very nice people.
I was in an improv class with Jerry and his brother Charlie. And then I also worked with Jerry on the TV show The Defenders, where Jim Belushi was a dick to me.
Jerry O'Connell was on that show too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so during that time though, they had like all these guest hosts, and it was just like, and the show was like just losing all these ratings. So she's like, I got to get my ass back to New York to save my show. Mm-hmm. So he was like, okay. So he was like, you can come back to New York, but you're going to have to go into a sober living. But the sober living was more like a jail. And
sober living? What is sober living exactly?
So after you get out of rehab, you can go into what is called a sober living, so that you can work on your sobriety more, because rehab is only like between 28 and 30 days. Mm-hmm. So you're sobered up, but you're still not ready to go back into the real world.
Yeah, sober living is kind of like an on-ramp back into your life.
Right.
Okay. And you have, so her situation was she had a couple people watching her the whole time, pretty much.
Right.
She had these escorts, people who were escorting.
Because it was, so for hers was like, it was sober living, but it was kind of jail. And sober livings are a lot like rehabs, where they're really nice sober livings like rehabs, and there's shitty sober livings. She was in a shitty.
Well, also, was she in a shitty sober living, or was Kevin? Because weren't these just her drivers to and from the sober living? I feel like these were just guys that were like quote unquote bodyguards that Kevin brought in, but he basically brought him in to like keep her captive. That's how I took it.
Right. And because she said like they followed her 24/7.
Yeah.
So one day, so she would do the show and literally just go straight back to the sober living as Kevin's living it up with his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So she started planning stuff. So she had planned this meeting, and the guys, her drivers, were like, no, you're not going to this meeting. you're going back to the sober living. And so they're caught in New York traffic, and she literally like gets out of the car and just starts running and runs to her meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
And starts plotting shit to take her show back.
Yeah, because her thinking was, I need to take back the narrative on my life.
Right. Which she did.
Yeah.
So what she
did it.
And I remember watching that day too, because one day she was like, she went she went on the show and was like, well, so this is what's going on. I was in rehab. This is what happened. Oh, and I love the part too, when they showed her like at AA meetings and she's like, I'm Wendy and I'm not an alcoholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
And then even she said, like, on the show, she's like, I'm not an addict. I'm not. And it was just, she said it was basically the situation, which, when you think about it, that was a high pressure situation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She said basically she was kind of gaslighted into thinking she was an addict when she was not. So then she then files for divorce, right?
Yeah, she files for divorce, and then Kevin goes to meet her at the sober house, like after hours, and she chews him out, and then that's when she tells him that the divorce papers are already on his desk.
Yeah, that's where she gives her Emmy monologue.
Yeah.
Right. So then another thing that she says that happened in real life, which I wish they would have showed this on the show. So she said that, like, once she decided to divorce him, see, because he had like a bunch of nice cars and a bunch of nice things, and he would blow her money. She went and had the cars repoed.
Now, did he get any money from this divorce? Probably.
She has to pay him alimony.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
She has to pay him alimony, but she says that it's a lot less than the life that he's accustomed to.
Yeah.
Because she has a syndication deal, right? Like, she makes like probably what, like 30 million? Like,
Probably something like that, yeah.
If she owns the show, or if she's at least an owner.
Right. So she then gets rid of him because he was the manager. He kind of ran the show as well. And so she gets rid of him, and then she is like totally empowered. Like totally empowered. Which I think this was a good message for women.
Yeah.
And then you could tell like the show became more fun for her to do. And it became like, I like the montage where he's gone and so everybody's dancing.
In the office, yeah.
Because I'm a single lady. And it was like a single lady montage with, oh man.
Actually, when they talked about that and they started that montage, it was like, oh, they're going to show her like screwing around with lots of guys now that she's single. I thought that's where that was going, but it's like, oh, we're at the end of the movie now.
Right.
No,
but she does screw around with guys because she talks about that every day.
Good for her.
But yeah, so then the end of the movie, like they're dancing and she's like in control and basically she took her life back.
Yeah.
And it was like, you go, girl.
She did it. How old is Wendy Williams?
50.
She's probably like 57 or 8, yeah.
57, 58. Yeah.
Right.
Kurt, where'd you go? Oh, there you were.
Yeah,
No,
Kurt walked off. Kurt stormed off set.
No, I have to stand for that Wendy Williams is that age.
Yes.
Ladies not getting that age.
And that was it.
Well,
And
no,
that was it.
the movie ended with like the real Wendy Williams talking to camera now, but not talking directly to camera. I thought this is so weird the way they filmed this. It's at first glance, you're like, oh, it's like Wendy talking directly to camera. But then you realize, like, she's actually not. She's facing a mirror, and the camera is pointed at the mirror for the entire. It was so bizarre. Why they didn't just have her talk right into the camera?
Right. And then, I didn't know if you guys watched it, but then the movie went straight into the documentary where she's talking as she's eating Doritos and caviar.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed the movie, but the documentary was even better than the movie. Because
Yeah,
she
I'm new
was
to
just,
the Wendy Williams world, so it was definitely a great primer, a great introduction. Now I know. I've learned so much over the years by being on this show.
Right?
I enjoyed it too, and normally when I watch things where they portray radio in movies, I always get really upset at like how much they get wrong, and they still, you know, they took some license here, but overall I was happy that it was portrayed pretty realistically in how things generally happen.
Which my takeaway is, oh my God, radio seems like just that's like a rough business.
Yeah, even more so now. I mean, back then they actually, you know, someone in New York could actually make some real money. Now, if you're just starting out in the city, you're still coming in and making not a whole lot of money.
Because the thing is like just the fact that, and I noticed, you know, knowing nothing about radio, I just noticed like, wow, these program directors are like stressing for their lives, and get fired on a dime.
It's insecurity piled onto insecurity, fighting with other people's insecurity.
There you go. There you go.
That's why I switched over to the glamorous world of podcasting.
Right?
Yes.
See? There you go.
Yeah.
But
aren't they saying, I've been hearing that podcasting is the new radio.
Oh, yeah. In terms of the way it connects with people, it absolutely is.
Podcasting is the new radio.
Well, and you can listen to whatever kind of content whenever you want. It's all on demand, similar to the way Netflix changed TV.
Right.
You know, live radio, there are certainly arguments to be made for keeping it around for live events and for breaking stories and whatnot, but the nature of every bit of radio needing to be done live, it's not necessary anymore.
And another thing about radio too, it sounds like it's just restrictive just because she would get it. Because some of the times she would get in trouble for talking about stuff that wasn't bad.
Imagine 30 years ago, it wasn't real common for people to talk much about their personal lives on the radio, much less like the details of like going under the knife for a boob job. So, you know, there's just like, you know, the moral police of the time had a different barometer than we have of now.
Right. Right. And but I do like that about podcasting is that you have the freedom to talk about anything. Because even YouTube,
we can fucking curse.
YouTube is now very restrictive.
Oh yeah.
Because I know a couple of vloggers, and so now YouTube, you can get flagged for saying like mentioning drugs or because I have another podcast, The Reality Reading Rainbow, where it's like. And so I had it, and I talk about reality shows and reality stars. And I had a guest today on the show. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking, and he goes, well, you know, this one person did the C word. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he was like, you know, drugs, the C word. And I was like, wait, cocaine?
That's not
the C word. And he was like, cocaine it is, the C word.
No, okay. C word means something else. Ask your female friends.
And this is a younger guest too.
Yeah. So was it that he was just like was brought up where like he's not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff? No. What happens is because then he was talking about something else, and he was talking about
suicide, and he was like, the S. And so no, what it is he's a vlogger on YouTube. So YouTube is getting strict now. So YouTube, you can't say words like cocaine. You can't say words like suicide or murder.
Is it that he can't say it, or is it that saying it will cause people to get up in arms and he may get canceled in that way?
No. What it is if you have a monetized podcast or if you have a monetized YouTube channel, if you say words like that, you can get flagged and they will not pay you.
Got it.
And can shut down your channel.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can't even if you swear on a YouTube channel, they'll take away your monetization for that too. For that episode.
Okay. So for anyone who's thinking about starting the Murder Cocaine YouTube show, you could just forget it.
Yeah.
So podcasting literally is like the last bastion of being able to talk about anything you want.
I think you're gonna see it shift more, and you kind of already are with people like Joe Rogan, like making headlines for saying moronic stuff. It's when you factor in the capitalist element of what we do, what YouTubers do, where if you're adding an advertising component, those advertisers are going to want to say and what kind of content their product is associated with.
Right. That's why I want to start doing, like MeUndies and things like that.
Like MeUndies.
Like the stuff that like Dan Savage advertises for, because then that they're a lot more liberal.
At the very least, we should be doing ads for Patti LaBelle's sweet potato pie.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we've spoken very highly of that. I've had many Patti LaBelle pie.
I don't even really like pie, and I had a Patti LaBelle pie, and it was amazing.
I got a sweet potato pie. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So Patty, if you're out there, because Patty, you do Hallmark movies too. So Patty, you can come on and talk about your pies, and we can advertise your pies and whatever Hallmark movie you're in.
Indeed.
Anywho, if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on my website, at lescrookendallbarrett.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Les Crookendall Barrett. And by the way, I actually, this weekend, if you have nothing to do, I am doing my one-man show, Climbing My Family Tree, as a part of the Tucson Fringe Festival. And even better, because of a donor, because of a mystery donor there, the tickets are free. So you can come and you can see shows, and it's free. So go to TucsonFringeFestival.org. Jason.
You can find all of us on Instagram at Lifetime of Hallmark Podcast. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Big Shot Jason. Kurt.
Cool. A couple of things going on. Sometimes I'm a guest on podcasts, and one that was just released, I think today, I'm a guest on the Rank and Review. This is Rank and Review, the letter N.ca, and I'm on episode 183, where we do the crazy 80s, where we do 6 80s movies.
Did you do Weird Science?
We do The Running Man, Critters 2, Masters of the Universe, Earth Girls Are Easy, Brainstorm, and Maximum Overdrive. And it was
Earth Girls Are Easy. Okay, so first of all, Earth Girls Are Easy has an amazing makeover montage. They do. Yeah. Not a lot of substance to Earth Girls Are Easy, a lot of style. And my favorite song, because I'm a blonde B, L-O-N-D. We know shoehorned in there. I take listen to the podcast. You'll hear what I have to say about all that. Now, otherwise, I'm also going to be doing my show, which is called Hooray for Speech Therapy 2021, and that's going to be on March 6th and March
14th. Pacific time, 4 p.m. March 6th, and Pacific time, 8 p.m. March 14th. And that's going to be at the Rogue Festival. So look up the Rogue Festival or look up KurtFitzpatrick.com. That's Kurt with a K. And that's it.
And if you want to hear other podcasts, I have 2 other podcasts. This week on my soap opera podcast, Soap Opera Love in the Afternoon, I have a wonderful interview with Jillian Bowe from Daytime Confidential. And on my other podcast, The Reality Reading Rainbow, where I talk about reality shows and reality stars, my guest is Andrew from Andrew's Lifestyle. Anything else?
Yeah,
That's it for me.
Well, that's it. So I've got to run and catch the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So until next week, bye.
Bye.
Bye.